Flipping heck, has the carpet gone off, flown off again? How does that happen? I didn't even need windows open. Although, does it really matter? Should I go get it? I mean, it hasn't appeared in any videos recently. I'm sure no one's going to notice. I can't really have it flying around town though, can I? Alright, it looks like I'm going to have to duct tape it down. There we go, taped down nicely. Tales of the Arabian Nights risks you and up to 5 others to the land of Shahrazade's very own classic fables in a bid to amass riches, wisdom, or just an insurmountable amount of awkward situations via faffing around. But faffing around in the most epic of ways. Taking on the role of a cast of low-grade legends, you stroll your way from Baghdad to Bantus to prove yourself worthy of having your name echoed across the continents. The game starts with the promise of epic adventure, grand conquest, dicey exploits. But after about 2 turns, you begin to realise that you're just stuck in some sort of weird globe-trotting sitcom. And it's funny, it's good. On your turn, you move as many spaces by land and sea dictated by how much money you've got in your pocket. You may approach a city because you want to complete a quest you've been given at the start of the game, or just read about it in a brochure and found its lack of skyscraper-sized serpents refreshing. Either way, when you pull up, you're gonna have to complete an encounter, and it's gonna be odd. After moving, players draw from encounters that can alter from time of day to their location on the board. And these aren't simple affairs where you have a tussle with a predetermined character spawning at that spot from game to game. Depending on the combination of factors you draw from, you'll have to delve into this monolithic Book of Tales, a 2,600 paragraph beast of a book that I'm pretty sure is responsible for the 13+ age rating on the box. Not because of any of the content inside it, but because, well, frankly, you could kill a small child with it. Dice rolls assign a description of an encounter or a character you stumbled across, but more importantly, when the weight of the confrontation is fully put on your mind, you get a matrix of reactions you can use to respond to whomever is unfortunate enough to cross paths with you. Each matrix comes with nice, nasty, and occasionally cutty responses that all make your blank canvas of a character look something off kilter when you consider the cocktail of choices drifting around in their head. Do you aid the lost princess, or do you try to court her? Because that seems like the right time for it. Do you attack the friendly hunchback, or do you beat him? Yeah, because when an attack won't do, a beating will do the trick. Gotta love you, Matrix C. Do you enter the rhinoceros? Don't laugh, you'd be surprised how beneficial that can be if you treat them right. I said don't laugh. No matter what you pick, you'll be given a number from the reaction matrices, a number which will relate to a paragraph in the Book of Tales which will be read to you, and you'll find out the consequences of your actions. These mini adventures can gain you treasures, money, or what I find more interesting, skills that are permanently added to your character to build a nice little CV to make future encounters a tad more interesting. Some tales ask of specific skills, and if you have them, then you'll likely get a much more exotic conclusion out of the whole ordeal. But I should probably say at this point that this is where all logic just gets bundled into a cannon and fired off into a black hole somewhere, and that's precisely why I love this game. You'd think that picking options to fight with weapon use lodged in your lobes will have you boasting of nothing but success, but chances are ye old Book of Tales will pull a fast one on you and force you to act your way out of a duel because, I don't know, equity status gets you out of anything these days? The Book of Tales matches the unpredictability of a rabid ferret baying for blood and theatrical talent, but it creates these bizarre, unique stories that just live on with you forever. One game had me starting off stamping through a pit of snakes, only to find myself in my next encounter having to fight a serpent the size of a city, presumably possibly its mother. I slayed it, only to find in my next turn that I uncovered a treasure that was serpent-shaped. And it wasn't my action, it was stated in the book. I had an irrational need to smash it and uncover what was inside it. It earned me the title Sinbad the Serpent Slayer, a man who had built up this irrational phobia of snakes due to his magnetism towards snakes. In the same game, my wife was given a quest from her father to travel the world in a bid to amass as much knowledge as she could, a rather noble pursuit if you ask me. Okay. So she set off, and because of this little bugger here, not through any fault of her own, she managed to lose pretty much all of her money in her opening turn due to some rather silly ventures. So she had to pickpocket some hag she came across. Didn't work out too well. Karma came and did her a double doozy there by the hag turning her into a monkey for trying to steal from her, and then because of the reputation she gained throughout the land, she got herself imprisoned. Couple of turns, tried to convince the guards that she'd be let out. Couldn't do it because monkeys can't really communicate that well. So she thought, screw it. Kicked one of the guards in the groin, ran away, managed to get out. Pretty much ended the game on a beach somewhere on the board, destitute and unable to return to her family. And you can't help but think to yourself, as all of this is unfolding, wow, I married this woman? The utter ridiculousness of Arabian Nights is why we love it so much, but I also really like the fact that it redefines the term victory. As you complete encounters, you earn story and destiny points. If you hit a predetermined amount of both and end your turn in Baghdad, you win the game. So in the game I mentioned earlier, I managed to do this absolutely flawlessly, giving everyone else one final turn to wrap up their stories. And one of my friends managed to cause this huge chain reaction of events that eventually caused them to marry into royalty in this game's version of the underworld. And you gotta wonder at that point, firstly, why would you come back to Baghdad anyway? But secondly, who's the real winner here? Can't help but talk about Tales of the Arabian Nights with a wonderfully wistful voice, but can I recommend it for everyone? I have a few cons with status cards. As you lummox around, you'll likely gain statuses which affect your adventure. Fail a fight, you'll likely be wounded. Commit something horrible, you'll likely be scorned. These add various positive and negative effects throughout the game, but can quickly become a concerning psych profile of your character if you gain too much. If you gather enough of these, you'll be spending entire turns trying to figure out what your next move should be, not to advance the plot in any way, but rather to ensure you know what you can and can't do. There'll be so much to read, and some cards feel like they directly contradict one another. You'll have to jump through so many holes, and it makes this thing that should be so brief, so quick, so simple into such a unbelievably annoyingly long process that's worthy of its own Peter Jackson trilogy. Okay, so I'm currently in the Gaius or whatever that is, which means I can't win the game unless I score 3 destiny points, but I would have got some if I could use seduction in my last encounter, but unfortunately I'm crippled, which means I couldn't. I got a really bog standard award from it. I can also move only 1 space, so I can't really travel across the board all that quickly. Of course, whenever I have an encounter somewhere else, somebody else is going to have to pick the reaction I have. So, of course, I'm playing with a bunch of jerks. They're going to pick something horrible for me. And, oh, my wife's back home. If other players see you in this position, they'll likely try and help you out. But not because it benefits them in-game in any way, but because they're bored. And that therefore means you're very, very bored. Everyone came to tell a story. Everyone came to hear a story from everyone. And this just... sometimes it makes it so hard to do what should be so flippin' basic. Whenever we play the game, we try and limit statuses to around about 2 or 3 per player. But that's mainly because we don't want the police around here questioning us for massacring the very concept of pacing. The other issue comes down to what sort of player you are. Tales is a marvellous open world adventure that suddenly locks you into a linear track once the Book of Tales comes out. You can pretty much decide wherever you want to go on the board, but you can't necessarily decide what happens to you or even predict the outcomes of encounters. We've had strategists perplexed, bewildered, confused about what's happening to them and exactly why, and the best excuse we can give for everything is, it's just magic, really. If you like your games to have a certain sense of agency to them, or the consequences to your actions to be a lot clearer, then, I mean, it's probably not worth shelling out for this. However, if you do see anyone playing it or get the chance to do so, do sit down and have one game. You will walk away with a wonderful experience and a great story to tell. If that doesn't bother you, however. Buy it! Everyone who comes to our front door wants to play Tales of the Arabian Nights. Newcomers because it's such a charming, wonderful, interesting and simple game. And experts because they know they're going to get a brilliantly unique tale to put in their autobiography of weirdness. Rug's coming back. Carrie, get the nails!